These jalapeno peppers are perfect. Is there really such a thing as too much rosemary? Ooh, gotta have some mint. And of course, we just need a smidge of something sweet. Ladies, what do you have for me here? Oh, perfect. Okay, I need one more thing. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Who doesn't love a farm fresh meal? Not only does it taste great, but it's also good for you. This is also why so many people are choosing to start their own homesteading operations, or at least grow a few of the things that they eat in their own backyard. And for those who haven't taken that plunge, they're searching for healthy and natural alternatives and how to incorporate them into their daily lives. So in today's show, I thought we'd take a look at some ways in which we can integrate food that's grown directly on a farm into our meals. Why don't we get started by going to a restaurant that supports local growers?
My husband and I started the Farmer's Table about 2 years ago. I had a background in food system work and hunger relief, and so I was around the farmers often at the market doing SNAP outreach and some market gleaning for hunger relief. And I just noticed how much food was left over at the end of the day and how so many of the farmers would leave the farmer's market and go to a second job because they weren't making a living being farmers. So that really struck with me, and then my husband's background is in the restaurant business. So that's how we started the Farmer's Table. We work with over 100 different farmers, about 140, and we source year-round all of our meats and grains and vegetables. And last year we spent over $200,000 with local small family farms. I can personally say that I've been to every farm that the food comes from. We also take employee field trips, so we take our staff out and show them the farms, and so they also can tell the story of, you know, I've seen that lettuce growing. We do these shake the hand that feeds you farmer to table dinners, and so we bring the farmers in and invite guests to come and eat dinner with them so they can talk to the farmers and get to know their stories. And I've got pictures on the wall of them, so I really try to just promote the farmers. We have a 10-table cafe, so we're really small and we're investing a lot in our local food system because we believe that it helps the economy and it helps lead to more food security in our community. The term hyperlocal refers to our gardens here on site that we harvest out of the backyard, out of the back door of the kitchen basically, and straight into the kitchen. We've got a full herb garden. I love for the customers to walk around when they're waiting for a table, and I try to have little labels on everything so people can learn about plants they might not know. It's appalling how much food goes in the trash. So another tenet of our restaurant is that we have a zero waste kitchen here. Like vegetable scraps and all that type of stuff gets turned into stalks. All of our plate scrapings gets composted or sent to some ducks and chickens that live a couple blocks down the street. And anything that's still edible, we send to hunger relief. We aim for zero food in the trash can. There's a saying, food is the unifying fabric of life, and I believe that because we all eat, right? I just think it's really important to respect the energy that went into growing that food.
Coming up, a delicious spring casserole that's straight off the farm. And a little later, we'll get the skinny on heritage sheep.
He's excited about that.
He is excited about being here. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Just take a look at these beautiful eggs. Look at the diverse colors. fresh from our hen house. Our girls lay delicious and nutritious eggs. What I love about the egg, it's so diverse. You can use it in just about every meal. So why don't we take a look at a delicious recipe, a breakfast casserole. After the break, we'll check in with a father and son team who know their sheep best. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
My name is Jared Freeze. My father and I own and operate JBJ Livestock. We raise white Dorper sheep, and that's what my true passion has been ever since we got into them. Their adaptability and their just way they function in the states of Missouri and Arkansas works so well.
You know, when an animal has a particular purpose, like the Dorper sheep being a meat breed, they have a certain conformation or body type, don't they?
Several things based on conformation. Like I said, you look for an animal that has a long length of body, especially on a ram, you're looking at his masculinity. Like I said, he's got an excellent head to him. You're looking for traits like that. You're looking at the amount of muscle that he carries.
Right.
And just functionality. What you see in the show ring is their best aspects, but you want to take those best aspects and apply them to what they're going to be used for at the house.
Sure, sure. What about sort of the breadth of the chest and so forth? Is that something you're looking for?
Yes, and on the Dorper sheep, it's very important. You can see on him, if I can get him turned out here for you, he's very clean fronted. He doesn't get real thick or too, bulky in the front. Some of the Dorper sheep I worry about, you see, they almost have like a French bulldog type look to them. They're too thick in the front end, and it actually causes some lambing problems.
And one of the things that's great about the Dorper breed is that they're great about being out in the pasture themselves.
Right.
They can take care of their babies. They don't need much assistance when it comes to
Yes.
when lambing time comes along.
Yes.
What we've been trying to do here is improve our flock, and I really appreciate you guys helping us with that. And it's been remarkable to me over the past 8 years since we've had them, how if you do focus on certain characteristics, that you can see improvement genetically. You can see the animal change or the flock change over time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that. Like I said, we've been into white Dorper sheep now for 8 years, and we've bred a lot of them up. We've also bought some stuff along the lines to increase our genetic pool. Like you said, genetics have played a big deal in that, just breeding for the traits you're looking for in the areas you're looking for.
Yeah, you decide, hey, we need a longer back, or we want, broader shoulders.
Right, we want a better feet structure on our sheep.
Yeah. You look for those characteristics in those parent animals, and then
Yes.
you begin to see it in the offspring.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I know our flock has improved dramatically over the past 7 or 8 years, and with this guy on board, it's even going to get better.
He's excited about that.
He is excited about being here.
My name is Mike Freeze. We've had many different breeds of sheep, but we really enjoy and prefer the white Dorper over others. They do very well out on grass and pasture with minimal amount of supplementation.
They are a meat breed sheep. They actually have a shedding ability versus what you see on most of your old-time sheep that actually had wool. These actually shed.
The Dorper sheep are meat sheep. They're sheep that their sole purpose that they were bred for was to efficiently produce meat utilizing low quality forages and roughages.
They have a tremendous carcass quality to them. On most of your sheep, they have a decent carcass quality, but these really, that's what they're specialized for. They have a big loin, have a lot of hip, which makes your leg of lamb, and then that loin, you know, is a big thing for your lamb chops as well, so there's a lot of pounds of products in these animals.
Dorper meat is excellent meat. The quality of it, based on the texture and the flavor and the leanness and the muscling, is really becoming the preferred cut for chefs. It is very delicate. It has a fine texture. There's a lot of muscling, so there's very little fat and gristle in it. And then also it's lean, so that you actually get more meat per pound of product.
It is very, very lean compared to most lamb that you eat. It has a little bit of a grit to it. Has a little bit of a, I would almost call it aroma that most people tend to steer away from. But one nice thing about the white Dorpers is they don't have that texture quality to them or that smell. It really tastes like you're eating a normal piece of meat when you eat it.
Because of the quality of the meat, that there really aren't any undesirable cuts on it, so that we can utilize it all.
Next, a delicious lamb recipe that's mouth-watering good. If you love lamb, like I do, I think you're going to find this recipe really easy to do. It's one you can do ahead of time, and it's very flavorful. What I'm doing is I'm starting out with 2 racks of lamb. Now, what I'm going to do to create this mustard and herb crusted lamb is to take the mustard, a half a cup. You can take all those mustards and mix them together. This is a Dijon mustard, but you can have a coarse grain mustard mixed with you know, just a typical hot dog mustard mixed with the Dijon mustard. It goes on and on and on. And then what you want to do is take some minced garlic, 1 tablespoon of that, and then 1 tablespoon of fresh thyme leaves. There we go. And then all of this gets mixed together, and it will be applied to the lamb in just a moment. Now, to make this a crusted lamb, we're going to take a cup of Italian breadcrumbs and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to brown these breadcrumbs over medium heat here. There's the 2 tablespoons of olive oil. You know, lamb is really a lot easier to cook than you think. A lot of people are intimidated by cooking it, but it's really not that difficult, and you'll see that with this recipe. Okay, I'm ready to add the breadcrumbs. So to really get the crusted effect, what you want to do is you want to brown these breadcrumbs because it'll make the finished product really crispy, which is good. You need to move them regularly like I'm doing here so they don't overcook. All right, I think they're just about done. Time to take them off the heat so they can just cool right here. Look at that beautiful color. And while they cool, what you want to do then is take and just add some salt and pepper. And now it's just a matter of applying the mustard. Now you can actually marinate this lamb up to 6 hours before you cook it. And I really like to just spread the mustard all over it like this. I've got them both covered in mustard. And now it's just a matter of taking the breadcrumbs and pressing the breadcrumbs into the top here. Plenty of breadcrumbs there. All right, and just press the crumbs into the mustard like I've done here. These need to cook for about 25 minutes if you want them medium rare. For medium, they need to cook for about 30 minutes. They are so good. It's one of the easiest lamb recipes you'll ever try, and I hope you will give it a try. All right, in the oven you go. Next, you'll find that chickens aren't the only tasty birds hanging around the barnyard. Stay with us.
I'm Ryan Carey. I'm from Lindsborg, Kansas. I've had poultry since I was 4 years old. I've noticed that lots of the old breeds that I showed when I was in 4-H are beginning to disappear, and so when I relocated from a small town to a farm, I decided to bring the poultry back.
You know, these Rouens make a beautiful flock.
Yes, they do.
They're so big. People come to the farm, they go, look at those mammoth mallards. What are you feeding them? I go, well, they're really not mallards. They're just colored like mallards.
Yes, they're the French meat duck from the Rouen region of France. And they're supposed to be large, mammoth, deep-keeled ducks.
Yeah.
The hens obviously have less color than the males.
Right, looking like a wild mallard.
Like a wild mallard.
That penciling, that brown and black
Yes.
penciling. Well, the thing about this breed, which I think is fantastic, is I really don't want them to hear this, but they're delicious.
They are delicious.
Yeah.
They are part of the flock that I use every year to raise several hundred meat ducks that go into the market every fall.
Well, the French certainly know how to eat, and
They do.
They picked a grand duck for it.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So these birds at maturity, Ryan, what would this mature drake weigh? About 8 or 9 pounds?
About 9 pounds, maybe 10.
You know, these are big, heavy ducks. They don't fly, so someone who would like to have them as pets, they're a great backyard bird. Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to let them go. What do you think?
I think they're ready to go to the water.
There we go. There you go, kids. Want to learn more? Visit pallansmith.com for delicious recipes, garden tips, blog posts, and our online store. So whether you're growing some of your own food yourself or picking it up from the local farmers market or supporting a restaurant in your town that supports local farmers, it's easier today than it has been for decades to find locally sourced great food. I hope you'll get out there and give it a try. Until next time, I'm Alan Smith. Just wish there was an easier way to get these dishes done.